Now, in my last video, I had left off talking about Carlos Baldomir, who Floyd fought after Baldomir defeated Zab Judah. People complain about that fight. They say that it wasn't a good fight because Carlos Baldomir was too old to fight Floyd at that time. They were saying Baldomir is old and washed up. Now let me ask you a question. If Baldomir was too old for Floyd, why wasn't he too old for Zab Judah? Zab Judah is younger than Floyd. He's a year younger than Floyd. And Baldomir was able to beat him. So with that in mind, it's easy to say that it's not because of age. It's because Floyd was just simply better. He was better than Zab Judah. I mean, he showed it. He beat Judah's ass. People would say, "Oh, Judah gave Floyd trouble." But where did he give Floyd trouble though? He landed one clean punch in the fourth round. And Floyd wasn't even stunned by that. It was just a clean shot. His legs wasn't even wobbly. They wasn't out. They were still there. And then after that, you see what Judah did. He jumped on Floyd because he got excited at that clean shot, and tried to finish the fight right there. But then Floyd kept going to his body, and that finished him. Y'all, everyone who knows boxing already knows that. Whenever you throwing all the wild punches, trying to go for a knockout, you're using up your energy. And on top of that, when someone's going to go to your body, that's going to take even more out of you because it's going to hurt to breathe. You're going to have all that energy you already used up. And then, you're basically done after that. And that's what Floyd did to him, slowed him down the rest of the fight and just picked him apart. Now, some of y'all don't understand what it means to give a fighter trouble. Y'all think one good punch means somebody gave a fighter trouble. That's not the case. If he's actually giving the fighter trouble, that means for the whole fight, there is one thing that they're doing that's giving their opponent trouble. Like Pacquiao and Marquez. What happened each time they fought? Each time they fought, Marquez gave Pacquiao trouble because of counterpunching. That's why all their fights look close. That's why it wasn't easy to see who the clear winner was. That's giving the fighter trouble. DeMarcus Corley, what he do against Floyd, landed one clean punch. Only trouble Floyd had with him was picking him up off the canvas because Corley was down so many times in the fight. The only reason that was trouble for Floyd is because Corley bigger than him. What happened against Zab Judah? Zab Judah landed one clean punch. Y'all said that was giving Floyd trouble. Against Shane Mosley, y'all say Shane Mosley gave Floyd trouble. What happened there? Shane landed two clean punches. That's not giving a fighter trouble. It's just managing to slip a punch through their defense. If they was actually giving Floyd trouble, they would have found something that they could do to fight against Floyd, mess up his game plan, and actually give him trouble for the fight. But here's the problem with that. It is not easy to give Floyd trouble for one reason. That's because he doesn't have a set style that he uses when he fights. He doesn't come into the ring and fight one way, and you hear him say that all the time. Nobody fights the same way each time. That's why I don't watch tapes of other fighters fight. Okay? And when you see Floyd fight, what does he do in the ring? Yeah, he's a counter puncher. Yeah, he's defensive most of the time, but that's not his style. That's just something he utilizes. His style is adjustment. Whatever his opponent does, he looks at that, finds a way to adjust, and then fights them based on that. If they try to switch up, he'll adjust again, and fight them based on that. He's continuously adapting, changing to what his opponent is doing. So, there's not really a way to train to fight a guy like that. Because no matter what you do in the ring, he's going to find an adjustment, he's going to make that adjustment, and he's going to pick you apart. you know, and people people are saying Pacquiao will give Floyd trouble, but that's something I'm going to touch on later. I'm going to continue talking about, some of the other fights people complained about. Now, another fight people complained about was his fight with Oscar De La Hoya. They say Oscar was too old for Floyd. They say it wasn't a good fight. Okay. Before Oscar went on his 20-month layoff, he had lost to Bernard Hopkins. And Hopkins is 8 years older than Oscar, So, and Floyd, he's only 4 years younger than Oscar. Oscar's only 4 years older than Floyd. So B-Hop's 8 years older than Oscar and won, okay? B-Hop is 17 years older than Jean Pascal and beat him by unanimous decision, okay? So what's wrong with Oscar, who's only 4 years younger or older than Floyd? After Oscar came back from his 20-month layoff, he KO'd Ricardo Mayorga. That's after a 20-month layoff. They're about the same age. Now, before that, he beat this dude who's 2 years younger than Floyd, Felix Strong. After he fought Floyd, he beat Stevie Forbes, who's the same age as Floyd. This dude is the same age as Floyd, and De La Hoya beat him. What's that say? It just says Floyd is the better fighter, So, I don't even see why people are complaining about that. But, since that's the case, if Pacquiao's supposed to be, better than Floyd, let's say he's better than Floyd, why do you have to ask Oscar to drain himself down to 147 when he hasn't been there for 7 years? We saw what that did to Eric Morales since he struggled with making weight against Raheem. And then Cotto, he was having trouble making 140, which is why he moved up, but they still wanted to fight him at catch weight. Another fight that said it was bad because of age was Floyd's fight with Mosley. Okay, Mosley had just KO'd Antonio Margarito, who's younger than Floyd and bigger than both of them. And how come nobody said Shane was too old for Margarito younger than Floyd? Why nobody said that? Because Margarito got knocked the fuck out. That's why. People complaining about Mosley being too old for Floyd. Okay, look at this. Pacquiao 2 years younger than Floyd. Why Shane isn't too old for him? Okay? And what's funny is, this the dude you say better than Floyd. They always talk about his work ethic. They say he's a machine in the gym. They say he got amazing footwork. They say he got amazing speed. And he can't be the guy who's too old for somebody that everyone's saying he's better than. How does that work out? Say he couldn't beat an old man because of leg cramps because the buckle on his boots was on the wrong way. Okay? Floyd fought Carlos Hernandez, messed up both his hands in that fight. And you need your hands to score points in boxing. Floyd messed up both of them, still beat that dude. Then against Castillo, they said Floyd had 2 broken ribs, messed up rotator cuff. Still beat that guy. And you're saying that Manny Pacquiao, who's supposed to be the greatest boxer in the world, can't beat an old man because of some damn leg cramp because they say you put a boot on the wrong way. What type of sense does that make? And that's why y'all Pacquiao fans always have me laughing at y'all's asses because y'all don't make no sense. Now look at this. Marquez. They said Marquez was too old and bloated 2 years before he just fought Pacquiao right now. 2 years before. And Floyd manhandled him. Floyd played with him. Now look at the fight that just had with Pacquiao back in November. This is 2 years after they said he too old and too bloated against Floyd, who they say Pacquiao better than. And look at the trouble he gave Pacquiao. Gave Pacquiao a hard ass time. They're whooping that ass. So I think personally Marquez got robbed this time, but oh well, it's not in my hands to decide. You know, and they use the same excuse that they use against Moses. Say his leg and feet was cramping up. Talking about that's why he couldn't beat this old ass dude 2 years later, and he was weighing more than he did against Floyd. Came into the ring at 150, and people saying that Pacquiao better than Floyd, but can't beat Marquez. If he better than Floyd, he should have manhandled Marquez. But that's Pacquiao fan logic right there. Now look at what Jim Lampley said in round 6 of that fight. Here's what he said about Pacquiao's fans. He said, some fans and followers have become irrational in terms of judging his quality compared to the guys he's fighting. And that's the truth. Y'all blindly praising Pacquiao as the best fighter. Look at Antonio Margarito. Dude slow on his feet. Dude slow with his hands. Yeah, he might hit hard, but how much of that was because of his illegal raps? Of course Pacquiao gonna make him look stupid. Look at how much faster Pacquiao is than him. Another thing. If Pacquiao the best fighter, why he the only fighter I heard of to miss 1,000 punches in one fight? What other fighter missed 1,000 punches in one fight? He threw 1,231 against Joshua Clottey, and all Clottey ass did was stand there still and cover up. You telling me this dude's supposed to be the greatest? He throw 1,231 punches and only land 200 of them things against some dude who just stood there like a fucking bum. And he's supposed to be the greatest fighter. Shit, and they talk about he got this blinding speed. He got accuracy. He got footwork, and he can't land punches against a dude just standing there. He missed 1,000 of them. Who missed 1,000 punches in one fight and still the greatest fighter in the world? That's just something that made no sense. Now round 8, Pacquiao versus Marquez. What they also said something else what I've been telling people for a long time. Pacquiao hasn't competed against another great fighter who still had it since his second fight with Marquez. That is what the commentators were saying in round 8, and that's the truth. Okay? Look at after his second fight with Marquez. He fought what's his name? Diaz. People thought Pacquiao was on. He fought Diaz, looked good. Okay? After that, it was all them catchweight fights, against old washed up people. Except with Clottey, who's about the same age and could have fought but just stood there like a bum. And Cotto, who they were saying is damaged goods. And in my last video, I posted a link to where they were talking about how Pacquiao's opponent picking process go. Looking for people who was doing bad in their fights. Looking for people who was shitty. That's what they was doing. Now, you already know what happened with De La Hoya. You already know what happened with Mosley. You already know what happened with fucking Margarito. Okay? And that's the truth. Marquez was the last fighter Pacquiao fought who was actually moving. Since Marquez, Pacquiao was fighting people who like to stand there toe-to-toe and trade shots. That's the people he's been fighting. Believe me, go look at the fights. There's people who like to brawl, people who like to come forward, people who can't fight while going backwards and box. There were people who can't fight going backwards. That's who he was fighting. But anyways, this video coming to an end. And I'm going to put up the third part here in a little bit, so y'all stay tuned for that.